Truth is elusive. The following program might shock and anger you. But don't believe anything you see or hear on this program or any others. Research it yourself to verify its validity. This is the age of deception. I'm not here to entertain you. You have 60 other channels to do that, to keep you numbed down and dumbed down. Your life is an illusion. Welcome to another dangerous episode of Forbidden Knowledge. My name is Craig. I'm here to slap you around for the next hour. Slap you around today about health matter. Now, I do about 1 in 5 episodes of my show about various health things, and we're going to be probably doing more of those in the future. This is not a live show. If you're watching this, you're watching it on tape. This is here in the studio by myself. I'm going to be doing an unusual type of episode today. We're going to be giving you the results of my research that I've been doing for more than a year now, quite a bit longer than that actually, but I've been doing this research about heart disease being the #1 killer. Now, if I can find the sheet that I got a lot of papers back here, I got a lot of books, I got a stack of things and showing my research to try to prove to you, you don't have to become a statistic, because although heart disease is our #1 killer in this nation, and someone has a heart attack every 20 seconds. Over 1 million heart attacks occur every year. 300,000 deaths each year had no prior warning. Usually it's either a stroke or a heart attack. And 73 million men and women are currently at risk. You don't have to become a statistic. I'm going to be telling you about a device that you can test yourself to find out your risk factor. It's this device right here. It's an FDA approved screening device. It even has insurance codes so insurance can cover it. It tests for heart rate and hydration levels. It shows arrhythmias and fibrillations. It tests arterial flexibility and dilations, shows degree of plaque buildup. It grades the vascular system from A to G. It tries to grade your age. It tries to find out what age you are. It assigns a biological age to the arteries, tests overall cardiovascular health, and it supplies a printout of the results within a minute. It really only takes about a minute to take the test, the actual test, and the actual results to go over it, because you won't understand what you see on these reports that you see is just a little bit too complicated. So it takes probably another 45 minutes or so to go over the results of those. We're going to be showing you samples of those. I'm going to show you the proof of my results of my research to show you that there is a solution. You don't have to become a statistic. Heart disease is an item that, even though most of us die of it, and our medical establishment, and maybe I should back up now, this program, I should put this disclaimer in, because FDA won't like what I do here, and neither will doctors, actually, or the pharmaceutical industry. A lot of other special interests that are very opposed to this information coming onto the air. This show is for your educational purposes only. It's just for fun. There's nothing here that you need to consult your medical doctor for advice. I am not a medical doctor. I just play one on TV sometimes. Okay, so I'm not a doctor. I don't have any degrees. I am certified in certain use of this machine. Okay, so I'm a certified DPA technician. That's all I'm qualified for. All right, I have training in the machine. I know how to use it. I know how to interpret the results. Okay, that's it. But so everything else is just education for your amusement. Okay, so nothing else. With that disclaimer said, let's continue. Heart disease, #1 killer. There's too many special interest groups that really want to make sure heart disease the truth about heart disease never comes to the reality of things. Because if it were, many millions, and maybe I shall say billions of dollars could be lost in the healthcare industry every year for its bypass surgeries, all the stents, and what are some of the other things they do for our heart disease today that probably are not necessary if you really look into the facts of the matter. We're going to try to cover some of that today. Things like angioplasties, angiograms, all these things that they do to us presently, cut, burn, like cancers also. There's cancer remedies where you might be able to get yourself better by yourself. Heart disease is no different, okay? It's the biggest killer. Since it's the biggest killer, it's the one I decided to attack first, okay? I've been doing a lot of other research about a lot of other things relating to health. And based on my research, I found, and we're going to be showing the proof of that today, that an amino acid available in your health food store called L-arginine can be of great benefit. And remember, this program is for your amusement only. Wink, wink, nod, nod. So let me show you some things. Let's see if I remember which button to push here. I believe this one will show you some of the products. Now, these are some products that may or may not be available in your local health food stores, depending on where you're watching this. This program, by the way, was recorded in Ann Arbor, Michigan in December of 2008, based on an article that appeared in Natural Awakenings magazine, the Ann Arbor edition on page 8, okay? And I decided to finally bring forth the results of my research to the public. And so if you're watching this on the internet or some other DVD in some future date, that's what we're talking about here for Ann Arbor, Michigan. So these products may or may not be available in your health food store, but these are very common products. We have here, these are all L-arginine products. I'm going to be talking about, they come in the pill form, they come in powder forms, and they come in liquid forms. We're going to be talking about all of those as we go when I talk more about heart disease and what we're talking about here. So this particular test is a very interesting test that can be done for about a minute. And generally people charge, from what I've seen, people who do these screenings charge anywhere between $30 and $50 for this particular test. And it's again, it's a FDA approved test. It even has insurance codes, so if it's worked under a doctor, then it can be charged to insurance. Most doctors will shy away from this, however, because the cure, shall I say, I can't really say cure, but other people say cure, okay? Big words there, cure. Some of these books I can show you to study on your own. Don't believe anything I tell you, okay? I'm going to show you some of these books now. How about this one? Let's Stop the #1 Killer of Americans Today by Dr. Harry Eldwart. I'll be showing close-ups of all these books. The Cardiovascular Cure, okay? He's a doctor. He can say cure. I can't. By John P. Cook. We have the Arginine Solution. Now, this book is out of print presently, but if you go on eBay or some other source like that, you probably can find them. That's how I found this one, by Robert Fried and Woodson Merrill, a doctor, Woodson Merrill. Now, this book here, a winner of a Nobel Prize for his work with nitric oxide. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be talking about L-arginine and nitric oxide. Now, we're not talking nitrous oxide, because nitrous oxide is a gas. Only this book is called No More Heart Disease, No standing for nitric oxide, and it's by Dr. Louis Ignario. He won the Nobel Prize for his work in this field. And there's a couple other books. These are both by Dr. Matthias Rath. This particular book is interesting because it takes a little bit different theory, and I haven't been able to prove absolutely yet the positive results of my testing with this theory, I'll call it at this point, since I have not been able to prove it. I highly believe in this research. It looks real good to me. Dealing with work with vitamin C, okay? Vitamin C, and also with smaller amounts of L-lysine and L-proline, also amino acids you can get in your health food store. So study that, this Dr. Matthias Rath's book, Why Animals Don't Get Heart Attacks But People Do. The reason, if you think about this now, I'm going to explain that vitamin C theory and get this out of the way, because I'll be talking mostly about L-arginine, because this to me right now in my mind is a theory because I have not proven it with the results of this machine. The vitamin C theory, sailors of old crossing the oceans, sometimes take months to get across the oceans, would come down with scurvy. Scurvy is a vitamin C deficiency, okay? Vitamin C deficiency, and usually the first sign of it was bleeding gums, and I'll get into why that's important later. Bleeding gums, bleeding in the mouth, because the arteries are most exposed, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But they also noticed the cat on board never got scurvy. Why is that? They found out, based on all the researchers found out, that animals develop vitamin C internally. Us humans do not anymore. Now, we used to, but this is long, long ago. We no longer develop vitamin C internally, so we must get it from our diet. And animals, other than bats, guinea pigs, primates, and that's about pretty much it. All other animals on the planet appear to be developing their own vitamin C internally, so they don't really have the incidence of heart disease like we do. So that's why the book is called Why Animals Don't Get Heart Disease, but People Do. So that's about all I'm going to say about the vitamin C theory, although when we get to arterial flexibility, I will discuss that a little bit more, why it's so important. So I got a lot of these props out of the way. Let me talk about the results of my research. And we're going to be going over a lot of papers here, and let's begin that now. And also we're going to have a lot of books, some other visual aids that I'm going to be showing you. We're going to go over results. We're going to show, first of all, what a screening is, what this little device here does, and why it's so important, I believe, in finding out your risk factor of heart disease. Because if you don't know where you are now, you could die unexpectedly, okay? And just because your parents died of it. In fact, folks, my father died of heart disease at the age 57, okay? I'm going to be showing you my arteries. I'll be able to show you my arteries, and I'll show you the progression I made. And I know that I'm not going to die of heart disease, okay? So just because somebody in your family passed away of heart disease doesn't mean you have to. Family history is probably much smaller of a risk than they're telling you on the TV and the mainstream press. This device involves just a simple clamp-on device. Let me get a little closer angle shot here so you can see it a little better. Now, you doctors and nurses might think this is a pulse oximeter. It's not. It's called a photoplethysmograph. This test involves just you can see that light inside there. This is what is clamped onto the finger. That's all it does. It's just clamped onto the finger like a pulse oximeter is. And this device is, however, called a photoplethysmograph. Does something entirely different. So this is not a pulse oximeter for those of you in the medical field. Of course, those of you in the medical field, although interested in what I'm doing here right now, might be kind of angry by the time we're done here. But that's so be it. That's the nature of this beast. When you come on the TV and tell the truth for once, people get a little upset. Because things like cholesterol-lowering drugs are the big rage today, and actually that might not be the right thing for you to do. Remember, I'm not a doctor, but you need to research that yourself to find out what I'm telling you may or may not be true. We're going to go into that a little bit here very soon. In fact, I have a visual aid here I want to share with you when we start this now. Some of the most important parts of what I'm going to be telling you about is we're going to be talking about endothelium health. This particular test, I need to back up again. This particular test, it just clamps onto the finger. Like I said, that's all there is to it. You sit there for a minute, relax, you put your feet flat on the ground, no talking, and no blood drawn, no pain. And a minute later, the computer, the screen looks like this. If I can show you what the screen looks like. This is the screen that shows up top here. This is the plethysmograph waveform. This is the accelerated plethysmograph waveform. A lot of other information is shown here. We're going to be going over some of that as we go on, but for right now, that's all you need to know. We're going to be showing you in detail this test as we go. Showing you what it shows, because I'm going to show you the proof of what I'm talking about with the substance L-arginine. So, how do I want to proceed? The show is done essentially live. I'm going to be adding a lot of inserts, so I'm doing it rather blindly because I haven't even filmed the inserts yet, and we're going to try to, for those of you in the TV business, this is a one-man operation, this show, that I do myself. I'm just public access. I don't get paid for this, and I don't have to pay either to get on the air, so this is all done for educational purposes. When we take a test, we're going to take a test now. Actually, we'll take a test on myself, and I'm going to have to insert this and put this on the screen. We're going to take a test, and basically I rest there with my arm about level with my heart, and let me show you, since you can't see it, and I rest it on a table. I'm not going to be doing it very accurately here. We'll do it. Actually, I'll just go ahead and start the test, and we'll try to show you this as I go. But I will be inserting something else here, and you'll be able to hear it start. I missed the button. There it goes. And you'll see if you look at the screen, if I zoom into it, that is, and this is not going to be done very correctly because it's a jumble. But that top screen, I'll switch over now to a version that I pre-recorded so I can show you what this plethysmograph waveform looks like. The top graph there is the plethysmograph waveform. And that's telling me arterial flexibility, and I'll get into the results of that after we get done here. The bottom one, the bottom chart, the bottom main graph there that's moving along the screen is what they call the accelerated plethysmograph, and that is indeed for plaque. It's going to show you the amount of plaque buildup in the arteries. And there's a whole lot of other information there. We're going to go over this later, but I'm just showing you what this test looks like while we do it, so that you'll understand a little better what's involved when we do this test. It's not rocket science. It's rather simple. It's nothing that can't easily be done in any doctor's office, any other type of office, even somebody's home. However, this machine does cost a lot of money. Now, this test is just about over. You'll see it go to the end of the graph there on the bottom, and then it'll make a noise. And that tells me the test is done. So now we'll go over the results of this particular one that I did, that I pre-recorded just a few days ago, actually. And we'll show you the results of a lot of the other ones too. So if I can find the results of the test that I'm going to be looking at today. This is the one. Okay, the top graph there, or I'm sorry, let me go over this step by step. If you look over here, this section I'll be trying to show you recognition. It shows the two numbers in there between 80 and 83. Okay, now that's what it's trying to do there. It's trying to demonstrate to me any missed heartbeats, any signs of arrhythmias or fibrillations. Okay, that's what that's supposed to be doing there. Now, the difference between those numbers, the last number is the actual, what this computer calculated, the actual beats, potential heartbeats you had. And the first number, which is 80, is the actual beats. It's trying to tell me I missed 3 heartbeats. Now, that's nothing to be nervous about. A lot of times I score a perfect score on this test. Every time you do this test, you may miss a beat or two, you may miss any beats. What I'm looking for there is the only thing I'm concerned about is if I see a 20% loss of heartbeats. Yes, that's right. You can miss up to 20% of your heartbeats in a minute period of time and still be considered normal. Okay, and I wouldn't even be scared for somebody until I saw them drop down to 50%. Okay, that's real low, but you may sound, but that's where I would tell somebody to see the doctor. What we're measuring there, that's very similar to an electrocardiogram. That's the signal between the brain and the heart, the electrical signal. And as long as that electrical signal is functioning good, you have little or missed beats, okay? Again, it's normal to miss some beats. So a lot of people get scared. They lay there at night and they feel like their heart starts pounding or their heart stops. And well, can be normal, okay? Missed beats can be normal. I'm not saying, you need to check out your own situation with your doctor, but some missed beats are normal. Up to 20% per minute is what I've been trained, okay? Again, I'm not a doctor. Second item on there is what they call ejection time. Now, ejection time is it's very similar to what an echocardiogram does. An echocardiogram does what they call ejection fraction. Ejection fraction, let me get the right screen here that I want to get to. And, okay, look closer. Ejection fraction is one of the things that echocardiogram tests for. It tests for the heart strength is what we're looking for here. And each time the heart beats, it squeezes out a certain amount of blood and it ejects a certain amount of blood. And that's what we're trying to see, the fraction of the blood ejected. So we're trying to see heart strength by the amount of blood ejected with each heartbeat. That's what they call ejection fraction. We're measuring something a little bit different here called ejection time. Ejection time, the normal range, as you see there, is between 260 and 380. This in milliseconds. What I'm trying to measure here it's different than in an echocardiogram, but it's trying to measure heart strength by the speed of the valve between the left ventricle and the aorta. So that valve, the speed of that valve gives us a good overall correlation to heart strength depending on how fast that valve is. And as long as it's within that range of 260 to 380, then it's considered normal. And as you can see, part of this test here shows ejection time, in this case was 270 on this particular test, so that's in the normal range, so there's no issues there. So that's what ejection time is. And if it's out of the range, then I go through a series of probabilities of what it could be due to. The next item you'll see on that report is pulse rate. Now, pulse rate, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's just beats per minute. In this case, it shows normal. The normal range for a pulse at rest is between 65 and 80. Now, don't be concerned if yours is a little higher, a little lower. In fact, I tested my dentist once, and he tested out to be 45. And as soon as I saw the plasmograph waveform, I go, whoa, as soon as it came on the screen, he says, yeah, I have a slow heartbeat. So some people may have congenial slow heart rates, and that's fine. He wasn't having any problems with getting dizzy or lightheaded or anything when he stood up or anything like that. So that was normal for him. Some people have a normal lower or higher heartbeat. Athletes might have a little bit lower heartbeat anyway, well-conditioned athletes. And I would go over a range, depending on this particular case, my heart rate was 73 when I took this test a few days ago, and that's in the normal range, obviously. And it will tell me this worksheet that I usually do with it. It will tell me what potentially might be the if it's high or low, it might tell me potentially what might be the problem. A combination of many things could or could not be due to all the possibilities, okay? And since I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose anything. This is only a screening device. So then I would go over that, and I show the next item on here is pulse height. Now pulse height, we're trying to find out the hydration levels of the blood, basically, and that means water. And so hopefully if this chart is not in range, if you look at the chart here, you'll see it says pulse height in this case, mine is small because it's below 2. Because the normal range is between, if you see this green area on the graph next to it, the normal range is between 2 and 8. That green bar area, this is a graph for pH. pH means pulse height, by the way, not potential hydrogen. And that little pink box represents me because my number was 1.56 in this case, which means I haven't drank enough water when I did this test. So the solution to that is what? Drink more water in that case. Now, it could also be due to thyroid issues. It could be due to some other things, whether it's high or low. If it's not within the normal range, there also is on this worksheet that I won't go over now, all the different things that could be due to either high or low. And the next part of the test, though, is the main focus of this show today. The next portion is called the PTG waveform. Now, the PTG waveform, PTG stands for plethysmograph. Remember I told you this device is called a photoplethysmograph, and that's what's measuring this waveform. Now, we're going to look closely at these waveforms, and we're going to look closely at a lot of them, but let me just show you one, and in general, and what I'm looking for when I'm looking for this, what I'm looking for in this plethysmograph waveform. This is based on my interpretation from the many hundreds of people that I have screened in the past. I'm looking for something called a dichronic notch. I'm looking for a bump. You can see this bump. I'm looking for this bump. This is good. The bigger the bump, the better the flexibility of the arteries. What we're trying to measure here is the level of arterial sclerosis, meaning the hardening of the arteries or the lack of flexibility, the loss of flexibility of the artery. We're trying to measure the degree of flexibility of the arteries when we're looking for on this plethysmograph waveform, looking for this dichronic notch. That's what we're trying to find out when we're looking at this notch. This is actually what I'm looking for, folks, here. I'm looking for this dichronic notch. This bump here is important because here's a brief explanation of how this happens. If this is a heartbeat, okay, the valve closes at this point. This is actually flow because it detects the hemoglobin as it goes by the sensor. This is actually flow, not pressure, but you could think of it about the same way. The flow goes, the heart beats, the valve closes, the flow starts. Now, because your arteries are supposed to be flexible, you eventually get to when they go back to their normal state size and the blood rushes up against the valve on the other end, it actually creates this little secondary pulse here, and that's what we want to see. We want to see this little secondary pulse because that's important to show arterial flexibility. Most people I test are in their 50s and up look like this. An older person looks like that where they have no sign of a dichronic notch, maybe just a slight distortion here. But this is what we want to see. We want to see this to have the dichronic notch like that when we're looking for the notch, because a lot of people test out to where I see no notch. And generally, I'm going to show you a little chart here to show you a difference between some of them. We're going to flash some of these on the screen. We're looking for, this is a little thing I put together showing what I'm looking for, a little thing I just drew real quick. I'm looking for this bump. And I'm looking for a bump a little greater. If you look as you go on here, each of these gets progressively less. And I put ages down the bottom, roughly. People in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s and on up. Usually by the time people at 50 years old or so, I no longer see this dichronic notch. And that means for all intents and purposes, this machine can no longer measure the flexibility of the arteries. Why is this important? What we're trying to do when we're talking about heart disease, this is the key. This is what they don't tell us in school, which even grade school kids could understand if they were only taught it. And our press is avoiding, we aren't being taught this thing. So that's why I'm here telling you about it. Because this is so important and so easy to understand. What I'm looking for I'm going to show you this chart now here. Your arteries are supposed to expand and contract a little bit with each heartbeat, okay? Expand and contract a little bit. They're flexible. That's what they're supposed to be. Now, there's an inner lining of the arterial wall shown here called the endothelium. The endothelium is an inner smooth lining of muscle that's very smooth, like Teflon. Like nothing can stick to it, including plaque, okay? Cholesterol or plaque. However, when we start to age, or not necessarily age, because I'm going to show you some different tests with people, you're going to be surprised what you see. When people start aging, they start developing cracks, or because they start losing flexibility, like say an old garden hose where maybe it starts developing cracks. We start developing cracks in the endothelium, that inner lining of muscle. Now, when that happens, this endothelium, which was smooth, now is starting to have all these little microscopic cracks in it, and the body, in order to protect itself, is starting to fill those cracks. fills it with platelets in the blood, and it starts developing. It's no longer smooth inside like it's supposed to, and starts developing scar tissue. Then and only then can cholesterol start building up on the interior walls of the artery and become plaque. You have to start losing flexibility and start developing those cracks. And those cracks, by the way, if this is an artery, those cracks develop lengthwise. Okay, they crack in horizontal too, but lengthwise they crack in essence. And that now we're going back to scurvy. Okay, this is based on the research of Dr. Matthias Rath again, and Linus Pauling. He worked with Linus Pauling, who won the Nobel Prize twice for his work with vitamin C. So this is from pretty credible sources here, folks. Suggests that vitamin C, long-term chronic vitamin C deficiency, is probably the reason why we develop stiffened arteries, start developing arterial sclerosis. Okay, this is the theory, and I say it's a theory only because I believe it, but I have not been able to prove it. I have not had anybody long-term yet come back to me after taking this test after a year or so or more. I have somebody come along back term and say, okay, I've been taking mega doses of vitamin C, let's check it out. So I don't have the proof to back this up, but I will review it because I think the work is very important by Dr. Matthias Rath and Linus Pauling, who was involved with this until he passed away some years ago. But it's very important to understand this because this is probably the key to heart disease. Now, remember I told you about scurvy before. Scurvy, the first sign of scurvy is bleeding gums. Now, if you think about it, if your arteries are starting to leak, where are your arteries most exposed in your body? Might be your gums, might be your mouth. And that's the first sign the sailors had of old crossing the ocean becoming a scurvy. Now, Dr. Rath suggests that what we have here is kind of a slow motion scurvy. Not enough to make us have bleedings of the gums, but it's like a chronic, long-term, all our life kind of thing. Because you didn't get hardening of the arteries overnight. This has been going on your whole life, folks. So it's not an instantaneous thing, obviously. You don't just catch a disease called arterial sclerosis, or atherosclerosis for that matter, which is plaque in the arteries. Those are two different terms I'll be talking about greatly today on this program. So the arterial sclerosis, or flexibility or loss thereof, or hardening of the arteries, if you want to use the negative term, you start developing those cracks, and if you had enough vitamin C in your diet, which you probably don't, you probably would never develop arterial sclerosis. And then, in turn, you would probably never develop atherosclerosis, which is the plaque buildup. Because the plaque builds up, you see what happens is, let me go back to this other paper here, this page. The plaque builds up because your endothelium is unhealthy. Remember, you develop scar tissue inside the endothelium. And that's why plaque starts building up on there, because it's no longer smooth, because it's supposed to be so smooth nothing sticks to it. But then, I'm sorry, not plaque, cholesterol. Cholesterol starts sticking to the arterial wall, trying to further repair the damage done, and develops plaque. Now, plaque is it's doing you a favor in essence because it's helping you, keeping you from bleeding internally, because all your cracking arteries, you see, it's keeping you from bleeding to death. But it's also a vicious cycle, isn't it? Because it will continue to develop and build up on your arteries until one day you could have a heart attack. Okay, and we're going to get into that also, or a stroke or something of that nature. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about all those things. So you want to maintain a healthy endothelium. That's the key to it. That really is the key, because if you maintain a flexible, healthy endothelium, the inner lining of the arterial wall, you probably will never develop heart disease. It doesn't matter if your grandfather and your mother and your father, whoever, died of heart disease. You can beat these odds. But maybe you didn't, this is another thing about inheriting the so-called genes and all this, and maybe it's not as much as you might think, because maybe you just inherited your eating habits from your parents. Did you ever think about that? Because we find that to be more and more to be the case. Well, a lot of these research is coming out and finding out, well, a lot of this stuff might not be hereditary at all. It might be your how you lead your life and how you eat. And maybe you inherited that. You inherited behaviors, in other words. Okay? Something to think about. In any case, because I'm going to show you my arteries, and you're going to be amazed. And my father died of heart disease, okay? He died at 57. So we're going to show you my arteries here coming up soon. So, by maintaining a healthy endothelium, that's the key to it. Now, when you start building up plaque like that, again, it's helping keep you from bleeding to death. And so that's helping you in the short term, but long term it's going to cause problems, obviously. So you don't want to build up too much of it. Ideally, you want to regain the flexibility of your arteries, and you should no longer have. And think about societies. For instance, I use this example of the Eskimo. Research the incidence of heart disease with Eskimo and some other societies around the world, and you will find they don't have heart disease like we do in this country. Interesting, because think about their diet. I'm talking about the traditional Eskimos that may still be living off the land. Think about their diet. A lot of fat, blubber, meats. These are the things we're not supposed to eat when we have heart disease, right? But they don't have an incidence of heart disease like we do. And if they come and develop our lifestyles, if they move to they start developing heart disease. Isn't that interesting? So don't believe everything you see on the TV, and don't believe everything you hear or see on this program either. Research it like I did, okay? Don't believe anything I say. I'm not a doctor. What do I know? So maintain the healthy endothelium. Cholesterol is not the big problem. Now, if you have an unhealthy endothelium, then it might be wise to lower your cholesterol just enough to keep you from building up more plaque excessively. But, and cholesterol levels are not the problem either. I just gave the example of the Eskimos. You got to think beyond the box that this little TV puts you under. This TV. How do this? This TV. I can't reach that far. Okay, you got to think beyond the box, and that's what I'm trying to teach people today, based on my research for quite a lot of research, pretty intense research, because that's what I do on this program. We're a little past the half-hour point. My name is Craig. This is a show called Forbidden Knowledge, and you can kind of see why. We're talking about things you're never supposed to know, because these are supposed to be kept secret from you, because there's millions and possibly billions at stake by you knowing this information. If everybody on the planet would know this, we might not have heart disease in this country, or very little of it. So, let me see, let me get my train of thought back here we're going to move on now to the next part of the test, and that's plaque. It also tells the age. We're going to go with the age next, but next we're going to show some of these graphs here showing the amount of plaque. Now, this top graph is the large arteries. Now, the large arteries, let me talk first. These three graphs are the large arteries, small arteries, and the capillaries. Okay, three different size arteries. The large arteries are about the size of your thumb, let's say, and they run down the main trunk of your body. Here's a diagram showing the heart. And small arteries, which is the next part of this chart that I'm going to keep showing you all throughout the rest of the program, is for the small arteries. That's like, say, the size of these arteries that you might find in your arm or wherever. And that's also the arteries that are your heart. The coronary arteries are actually small arteries. So when you have a heart attack, it's actually a blockage of a small artery, the coronary arteries. And these arteries, by the way, are the most stressed in the heart, because they essentially, every heartbeat, they essentially almost collapse completely and expand all the way back up with each heartbeat. So they're under the most stress, so that's where usually you have the most problems in your arteries, is the coronary arteries. And this is what bypass. They try to bypass these arteries when they sense a blockage. Okay? And then the final part of the chart is what we call the capillaries. Now, the capillaries are so small that they only allow one blood cell to go through at a time. Okay? They're just so small that the single file, one blood cell to go through at a time. Now, the capillaries are so small they do not develop plaque. Okay? The other two are showing the degree of plaque. But the bottom graph does not show the degree of plaque, because you do not build up plaque in your arteries. What you could have is inflammation, constriction due to inflammation. That's usually what we see on this bottom graph of these charts for the plaque is constriction of the capillaries due to inflammation. Now, inflammation could mean hundreds of things. I don't know, but I find when I test myself sometimes that graph is all over the place. So with me anyway, I believe it's a sensitivity to some kind of food item that I don't know about. And I think that's with most of the cases, because most people I test, we're going to talk about that bottom one first, most of the people I test show to be way down, about halfway down in that white area on the left. Now, let me explain something to you. Where it says low, that means plaque buildup. Where it says high, that's less plaque buildup. So you don't want to be at the left of the scale. You want to be more to the right of the scale, or you want to be in the normal range, essentially. You want to try to aim for that middle range. But if you're all the way into the high range, that's good. Okay, so I should have backed up and told you that earlier. But the capillaries I generally see on the left-hand side of the graph, about halfway in that white area. Almost all people I test, about 95% of the people I test, I find them to be in that area. And it's, even though their arteries might look good overall, as far as the plaque buildup in their small arteries and large arteries might look really good, they generally look pretty bad in the capillaries. It's probably to an allergen of some kind. I don't know. There could be 100 reasons why you get inflammation. But I believe with my testing, I've tested myself more than 100 times with this machine, I find that it's probably something I eat. Could be corn or wheat or something very common that you might not think of. You might not think, milk or some of these other things that you might have an immediate on-the-floor pain reaction or something, or some kind of breakout of hives or something. That's not necessarily the case. You could have some inflammation, mild inflammation, due to something else in your environment or something you're eating. I believe it with me, it's something I'm eating. So I don't know. It could be something different for you. But those top two graphs are the most important. That's we're going to be going through a bunch of people's charts right now. The top one, again, is the large arteries, and the middle one is the small arteries. And it's showing the degree of heart plaque buildup, the arterial plaque, also known as atherosclerosis. Okay, you have arterial sclerosis, which is hardening, and atherosclerosis, which is the amount of plaque buildup. And this is what this machine is trying to determine. Now, I'm going to be going through a bunch of these in much of the rest of this program to show you the differences of these. Look at this gentleman here, 65 years old. This is typical when I see somebody in their 60s, though, but this man is getting close to be getting dangerous to a heart attack, because this middle one here, I don't like to see it that far down, because that's about the time I tell them you better go see your doctor. This gentleman here, 66 years old, similar looking, but he has a little bit better, less plaque buildup in the large arteries, as you can see. Now here's the female I was talking about, who had such great improvement in a matter of, if you look side by side, you'll see here the difference in plaque buildup and slight gain of the flexibility of the arteries over about a 3-month period. This woman is 62 years old. Here's one. Now this is interesting. Here we have a 23-year-old. Well, let's look at this first. Look at this. This is a pretty normal, kind of everything is in the normal range, has a decent dichronic notch, you'll see there. But yet, it's a male. He's 23 years old. So this is, although this is okay for a 23-year-old, he actually tested to be around 35 in this case. But this looks pretty good. Now look at somebody that's 10 years older roughly. Actually, he's got less plaque, or more plaque, I'm sorry. He's got more plaque, and he's got less of a dichronic notch, which is also typical. This is what we expect to see. Here we have a 23-year-old. Look at the plaque buildup, and also he has a pretty decent dichronic notch. Not quite as good as mine, but he does. And here's somebody that's a 33-year-old. Look at the amount of plaque buildup in him. A little bit more plaque buildup and a little bit less of a dichronic notch. So he's starting developing a little bit of a loss of flexibility of the arteries. And here we have, but here we have, this is a good comparison now. Look at this chart. This looks pretty good. It looks like about like that 23-year-old we saw a little earlier. All in the normal range in the plaque. Has a pretty decent dichronic notch. But look at his age. 71 years old. Isn't that amazing? This gentleman, it's a male, has done his homework, so to speak. He's treated his body correctly. He's done something right in his lifetime. And he actually he took double doses of L-arginine at one time, and I tested him again later, and he actually did improve it by a little bit. Not much, but he improved it by a little bit. He didn't need to, but he did just to try it out for himself. And indeed, he had results too. But this is a really good example showing how good somebody can be. You don't have to be bad just because you're old, because most of these other ones I'm showing you do look bad. Because here's a 59-year-old. No, I'm sorry, this is a 64. Because here's a 64-year-old, and this person ought to go to see his doctor, actually. Men or women, it doesn't matter. You still have the risk of heart disease. Half of women die of heart disease too, folks, so don't believe it's just a man's thing. Look at mine now. Let me go through progression here. Here's one from May of this year, May of 2008. You'll see everything is in the normal range. Everything looks pretty good. It looks pretty decent. Now let's move on to one from June, about a month later, June, and look at the plaque. Starts getting better and better, starts less and less plaque, better dichronic notch too. Then let's move on to this next one, which is, from September. And you'll see now I'm starting to get up in the high end of the scale. And the dichronic notch is even getting better. Here's another one from a month later, October. It's very similar, but it's still getting better, less plaque. Now here's one I took actually this is November, and you'll see the plaque is even less and the dichronic notch is even less. And this is after all the ones I've just shown you here. All these color charts have been from using the low-level laser. But this other one, now I'm going to go back to one that I tested more than a year ago. This was back in November of 2007. You will see the plaque build up where I started. Okay, this is a different kind of chart. Most people who do these screenings have this type of chart. I'm one of the unique ones in this country that use this color chart instead. But look at this. This is my latest one. This is incredible. This is well. No, this is not my this. Now look at this one. This one's incredible, actually. This is one from actually also November. This is the best one I've ever taken. But look at that plaque buildup. This is the best thing I've ever seen on anybody I've ever tested. and it's got almost no plaque. That's why I can't test anything more now with this machine. I can't do any better, really. This is about as good as it gets, folks. I am now, that chart is showing me to be about a 31-year-old, and I am 47. So even though my father died of heart disease, it doesn't look like I have much of a chance of that happening now, does it? So this is very important that you study this stuff. But this is about the best I've ever seen with anybody that I've ever tested. But this is the best test I've ever done. But I wanted to prove to you what can be done if you just decide to work on it. Because you will see here, let me zoom in here a little bit. You see here that this is just very recently taken, and I'm 47 years old. But yet, this is showing me to be a 31-year-old at this point. Pretty soon I'll be a letter A. This one here will soon change to a letter A, actually. So I'm getting younger, folks, at least in my arteries. Now let me show you now also this next part of this test, and kind of the final part, and I skipped over a couple things, but there's a lot of information on this test. The APG type, this is something that is more for the age, and I don't need to get in a great deal about that, but the letter there determines the age, okay? All these ages will be shown to you as we go on through here. This is trying to determine what this machine thinks your age, and sometimes it's not as accurate as we'd like. Some people test out very consistent, and some people test out, it varies quite a lot sometimes. So this is one of the lesser accurate parts of the test, so we don't really need to go into that much. But let me tell you, based on my research now with L-arginine, we have had this test being done on myself for many hundreds of times, actually. Well, probably a couple hundred times I've actually tested myself, certainly more than 100. And I've been doing a lot of research on this, okay? And because I don't believe anything I hear about L-arginine or anything else until I prove it for myself. And now I'm proving it, at least to myself, and I'm bringing it on the air for you to try to understand and get the benefits from my research, because I hope everybody else is doing research on there and can share it with our audience here. Because this is so important that we get to the truth of things and not just the hype that's on the TV. L-arginine is an amino acid. It's available in the health food store. It's one of the safest of the 22 amino acids needed for our body's health. And let's see if I press the right button to show you these. Again, these are items that are, some of these may or may not be available in your health food store, but this is showing you the items that we're going to be talking about here. L-arginine. Comes in pills, here's what L-arginine does. L-arginine, when you take it, it develops nitric oxide in the blood. We talked about that briefly. Nitric oxide is a gas, and that does all the wonderful things that possibly can be done. As you can see some of these pages we're going to be showing you here about some of the wonderful things that nitric oxide could possibly do for your body. It's amazing the research behind this. There's over 100,000 studies now to date showing the possible benefits of L-arginine. And L-arginine is available in your health food store in various forms, and we're going to be talking about that, and I might as well talk about it now. But before I talk about L-arginine specifically, let me talk about the research of my results. Basically, I'm going to show you some of my graphs now. When I started taking this test, I tested out to be about a 37-year-old, I believe, about 10 years younger than my true age. Okay. Now, when I started, and so I had a before. Then I started experimenting, and what I did was I took L-arginine. I happened to take this product, and I blocked out all these brand names, of course, because this is public access. I can't advertise anything. I took L-arginine for 6 weeks at a maintenance dose. A maintenance dose is 5 grams. So you better have pencil and paper ready. I'm going to be going through this very quickly. I took a maintenance dose for 6 weeks, and I returned and had myself tested again on this type of machine, and I found that I had greater flexibility of the arteries, and I had less arterial plaque on testing with this machine. And I'm showing you I'll be showing you a progression of my testing here. So I had much better results. I had a good basis. I actually lowered my age by another 4 years roughly by taking L-arginine for 6 weeks. I had less plaque and greater flexibility of the arteries. So I was sold. I went out and searched out a machine. I eventually found I used one, and I bought one, and I started performing these screenings for other people and started researching more and more and more. I continued to take L-arginine, and I continued to improve my plaque. I continued to get better and better. Now, after a period of about 3 months, I got a lot of results. I stopped taking it for a while now, so after stopped for a few months, I watched my plaque build up again little. So I was convinced L-arginine had an effect. Now, I was already getting much better at this time in my arteries, so I test these things, and here's another thing I tried testing, because Dr. Larry Lytle told me in a recent lecture that this low-level laser, which I've done probably about how many? I've done about 6 episodes about the, whoops, wrong button. I've done about 6 episodes of this, about this low-level laser device. This device that's FDA approved also for safety, and it can people right in the eye. It's got 12 lasers in it. Well, anyway, he said I could develop nitric, and for anybody out there who owns this laser, you might be watching on the internet or something, this particular one, I can't say the brand or anything, but mode 3, you'll recognize it. Mode 3, anywhere on the body, point and shoot. And actually, what the doctor told me is the best also for autonomic nervous system and function improvement, which is our autonomic, see, I'm talking about right now the test of the physical body, the heart. But there's also a test that this device can do about the autonomic nervous system called heart rate variability. It's also an FDA approved screening procedure that's accepted by our medical establishment today called heart rate variability that tests our autonomic nervous system. So if you want to also improve your autonomic nervous system, I haven't been able to prove this part of it, folks, but if you want to improve autonomic nervous system, mode 3 on proprioceptive points 1, 2, and 3. If you want to improve your autonomic nervous system function with this device. Now mine have not improved doing that. I'll just tell you my research right now so far, it has not improved. But mode 3 for nitric oxide production has indeed improved. I'm going to show you the results now because I have gotten so much great benefit over about the last 6 months of using just the low-level laser because I stopped using L-arginine. I tested L-arginine. I believe, based on my research, that it indeed helps cardiovascular health. But using this device for the next 6 months, I have been able to get my level of plaque up to what you're seeing here. It's just almost off the board where I can't even test myself anymore. I can't test products anymore, really, unless I stop taking it for a long period of time, start building up plaque again. But remember I told you, the before and after, I can show you some of the befores and afters. We're going to try to keep showing them on the screen here. I had some remarkable benefits just by using L-arginine at first, and then by using the low-level laser. So my research has shown that even though my father died of heart disease at a fairly young age of 57, it doesn't necessarily have to be so. And this is key to heart disease, folks. We're trying to show you some benefits. It's not only the test. The test is wonderful, but we also want to get people to go get a solution about heart disease without having to go through all the hundreds of thousands of dollars and possibly even just death. A lot of people don't want to know. I see it all the time. People walk past my booth or whatever. No, my doctor says I'm fine. I don't know. But they got their high pressure medications or their cholesterol lowering meds. But you know what? People that get on L-arginine find that they can get off their blood pressure meds with the help from their doctor, by the way. Remember, I'm not a doctor. With help from their doctor, and their cholesterol can get lowered, and look at all the benefits from L-arginine. And also they'll find that they no longer need to take their other medications, that they find that cholesterol gets lowered, the heart pressure gets dropped. I had a gentleman that I got a bottle of L-arginine, he immediately dropped 30 points. Usually when people are very low on the plaque buildup, in other words, or they have a lot of plaque buildup, they usually feel a difference with L-arginine pretty quickly, actually feel the difference, okay? And that's remarkable because a lot of these supplements, you just never feel anything. You take them and you think it's doing some good, but you don't really know. They're able to feel the difference, then I'm able to return and test them. Here's another example of a lady who came to me. Look at the dates on here. This is from 3 months, and then I took the retest. Look where the plaque is and the flexibility of the arteries. Then I took the retest 3 months later, and look at the improvement. Now, she was taking a double dose of L-arginine, which is 10 grams. Now, let me talk about L-arginine, the right way to take it and the wrong way to take it. You can go to my website at forbiddenknowledge.info and to find out more about L-arginine and how to take it. But let me briefly go over this. L-arginine should be taken on an empty stomach. The reason it should be taken on an empty stomach is because any proteins can interfere with the absorption of L-arginine. It won't hurt you to take proteins with it, it just will make your L-arginine less effective to develop nitric oxide. So you want to stay away from proteins, so the easiest way to just say it is to take it on an empty stomach. Okay, number one, take it on an empty stomach. Take 5 grams at a time, a minimum of 5 grams at a time. Dr. Louis Ignario, based on the research he did, suggests 5 grams minimum that you want to take of L-arginine. You don't need to take more or less, just take 5 grams. Now it's also beneficial if you take anywhere between 200 and 1,000 milligrams of L-citrulline along with those 5 grams of L-arginine because it helps boost nitric oxide so much quicker. Now, I know that you're trying to scribble this down, but just go to the website, forbiddenknowledge.info, and you can look this stuff up because I have it on my website. Some of the basics I'm telling you now. So you'll be able to go to an internet and be able to look this up. So nitric oxide production is what you're after here. So L-arginine mixed with L-citrulline between 200 and 1,000 milligrams is more beneficial than just straight L-arginine. Now, beware, these powders, the pills, now, the pills you're seeing here, these are available in any health food store pretty much. There's all sorts of brands. This is the most common thing you're going to find. The problem with the pills is to get the 5 grams, you got to take about 10 of these things. So that's a lot of pills to take. And they don't have L-citrulline in them, so you'd have to take yet another pill to get your L-citrulline if you wanted to do that. So that way, and it's kind of expensive. These bottles cost anywhere from $10 to $14 in a health food store, and it's about a 10-day supply, 9 or 10-day supply. So that's kind of expensive. So this next one here is the powders. The powders are you mix with water. There's a scooper inside. You mix with water, let it dissolve, and you drink it. Pretty simple. The powders are a better choice probably because they're cheaper also. For instance, this product here is actually $36 for a 2-month supply at a maintenance dose. Now, when I say a maintenance dose, I'm talking 5 grams. Some people who are at greater risk or danger, I might suggest to them double or triple doses. Now, when you take double or triple doses, you're talking about 5 grams 2 or 3 times a day, separated, not 10 grams all at once or 15 grams all at once. Now, L-arginine has been tested all the way up to 50 grams without any major any type of really major side effects, okay? So up to triple doses, and people can remarkably quickly repair this. Now I have seen I showed you the lady 3 months time, you can see the difference in the plaque and slight better arterial flexibility. You can see the difference in a matter of 3 months with her, roughly 3 months. And 9 out of 10 times I do see that. Now this is another disclaimer. Sometimes I do not see the benefit from people with L-arginine. I must be honest with you. About 1 out of 10 times, they come back to me, and if I only can trust they're taking it correctly, and I don't see the difference sometimes. So I'm making that disclaimer. Some people really get the benefit. Most people do. There are a few that don't. The powders, the problem with the powders is you have to take them, it's a powder, you mix with water, but the stuff tastes terrible. So try to find something with something in the ingredients to improve the taste. And usually that will involve something like citric acid and stevia or some other kind of sweetener, okay? That's what I would recommend if you're looking for a powder. Find something to improve the taste. Otherwise, you're going to take 1 dose or 2 doses and you say, oh, I just can't do this anymore. It tastes like turpentine. Ugh. And it's terrible. So beware of buying a powder in the store. Now, there's also liquids. Liquids are available. There's lots of them there. There's a couple shown here that they usually have a base of a mangosteen or a noni or goji juice, some other type of high antioxidant juice. And I've tested some of these products as well. In fact, I've tested the one on the left, and it seemed to work. However, there always seem to be multi-level marketing products. So you won't find these in the health food stores generally, but they're multi-level companies, so their prices are outrageous. We're talking, for the bottle on the left, we're talking about $82.50 per bottle for a 1-month supply. So do the math, folks. For this product, $82.50 for 1 month of maintenance dose versus $36 for 2 months of a maintenance dose. Do the math and you can see. So it doesn't have to be expensive. You have to do some shopping around. Look at the website, forbiddenknowledge.info, to get a better understanding of what I'm talking about and how to select some, because I actually have some by brand name on my website, so you want to look at it. So, because I have rated some of these products. So I think I need to back up a little bit, because people keep asking me, one of the things I realized I've missed when I started talking about vitamin C was about the quantities, because people always ask me, how much should I take? Well, the answer is, I don't know. Everybody's a little different. The only way I could tell for sure is to test your urine as it goes through, as the C gets flushed out of your system. You see, because vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin, your body can't really store it, so what it doesn't need at the time, it flushes out through the urine. So if you decide to take mega doses of vitamin C, spread it out throughout the day. Because if what your body can't use at the time, you're just going to get rid of. Now, by testing the urine, you can see how much vitamin C is getting through in the urine. Then that helps determine how much vitamin C you really need, because everybody's bioterrain is a little bit different. Dr. Matthias Rath's book suggests that when he talks about animals don't get heart attacks, but people do, is because the daily amounts of vitamin C produced by animals vary between 1,000 milligrams and 20,000 milligrams compared to human body weight. So anywhere between 1,000 and 20,000 milligrams might be in order. Now, again, if you want to get the most benefit from it, however, spread it out throughout the day. If you take 20,000 at once, it's probably just going to flush out of your system, most of it. So spread it out throughout the day so you'll get a better absorption of it. The other question that I probably needed to talk about, because one of the biggest things people talk about is oils with heart disease. And fats. Well, I wouldn't be too concerned about fats. You need fat. You need cholesterol, in fact. You know, when they talk about lowering cholesterol, remember, 80% of our brain roughly is cholesterol. So when you start reducing cholesterol to extreme amounts, maybe some researchers have found that maybe you might come down with Alzheimer's or some other brain ailment because you're reducing cholesterol and you're affecting your brain. Food for thought, so to speak. But oils. Don't believe the lies about canola oil. Research it. Do some Google searches on canola. That is not a good oil that I would certainly not recommend. What would I recommend? Well, I would recommend probably the best oils you could put in your body would be coconut oil. In this case, extra virgin coconut oil. This oil is white. It's clear. It becomes clear at about 85 degrees or so. It's just a clear liquid, and it doesn't really make the coconut flavor added to your food necessarily. It's a very good oil for your body. It's for your skin, for a lot of things. Research that, Google the words, find out for yourself, because we've been lied to about coconut oil and palm oil, very similar, about being bad for our heart, when actually the reality is it's the opposite. And that's quite true with a lot of things we cover on the show. The things you thought you knew all your life might be wrong. And your thoughts about coconut oil, based on what you were told throughout your life, probably is the fact that you've been lied to, and you probably should look out for coconut oil. Now, coconut oil isn't very readily available except in health food stores. You probably can't find it in any grocery store. But what you can find is olive oil. Olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, would be the next best thing, because this you can find in virtually every grocery store of various brands. And so you might hunt out extra virgin olive oil as an oil to use. The next best bet, as far as your grocery store goes, instead of choosing that butter, which is a hydrogenated vegetable oil, you might want to go with, you don't want margarine, okay? It's a hydrogenated vegetable oil. If you must have that taste of butter flavor or margarine, then you go with butter. Go with the real thing. Real animal fats probably are better. You know, when McDonald's switched from years ago from lard to hydrogenated vegetable oils, that actually probably was worse than the lard itself. The animal fats are probably better for you than the actual the animal oils are. Okay, so research yourself. Don't believe what I say. Heart disease is not a condition you have to be passing away of just because your family did. That's the most important thing to know. Maintaining endothelium health is critical, and you can do that from something in your health food store called L-arginine. But you need to research this for yourself. Don't believe anything I say. Just check it out, because it's so important for us to learn the truth about not only all the stuff political that was happening that I always go over on the show, but these health episodes are also very important, and you can get so much benefit by researching what I'm talking about to show you that, to prove to yourself that it's true. I guess I have to wrap it up here pretty soon. I don't know, I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch of things, but you've been watching a show called Forbidden Knowledge. This is about the most dangerous show on any TV station, any show there is out there, because frankly, this is information that you are not supposed to know, because if everybody were to know this, things could happen for the benefit of mankind, and frankly, there's a genocidal objective at hand here, keeping us health. It's like the old Henny Youngman joke where the doctor grabs your wallet and says, cough. Okay, that's really what we're talking about here. It's all about money. Keeping us sick from heart disease is all about money and some of the other long-term objectives of reducing population or keeping our populations down. If you want to remain a sheeple and become a statistic, that's by all means your prerogative, but I'm trying to tell people the truth and trying to show them what they can do to improve their own health. So, until next time, you've been watching the most dangerous show on public access in any show. My name is Craig. So long.
L-arginine has a profound impact on capillary resistance. And if you can't exercise, I've seen research done on L-arginine that if you can't even exercise your hands like this, taking L-arginine brings up the efficiency of your heart. That's demonstrable. L-arginine